Hearing the doctor's words shook me to my core. Matt's condition was critical, but with proper care and treatment, he had a fighting chance, something Mary had either misunderstood or ignored. I couldn't believe she had given up on him so easily. Determined to do everything in my power, I took full responsibility for Matt. Hospital visits, medication schedules, therapy sessions. I managed it all while working full-time. There were nights when I cried myself to sleep, terrified of losing him. But Matt was stronger than anyone had expected. He fought through every treatment, every painful procedure, always looking up at me with hopeful eyes. Years passed, and against all odds, Matt survived. His health improved dramatically, and he grew into a bright, determined young man. He never once asked about Mary after she left. It was as if he had accepted that I was his only family. Now, standing face to face with Mary and Todd after all these years, I felt a mix of anger and disbelief. They had moved on with their lives as if nothing had happened. Mary's casual mention of Matt, as if he had been some distant memory, made my stomach turn. And Todd, laughing, as if this were some kind of joke, made my blood boil. But before I could say anything, Matt's voice pulled me back. "Mom, it's time to go." I turned and saw him, tall, strong, successful. He wasn't a fragile boy Mary had abandoned. He was a man now, confident and unshaken. As Mary and Todd's expressions shifted from amusement to shock, I felt a deep sense of pride. Mary had given birth to him, but I had raised him. She had walked away, but I had stayed. She had abandoned him, but I had loved him as my own. Looking at them one last time, I simply said, "Let's go, Matt." Without another word, we walked away, leaving the past behind us. When I finally understood the severity of Matt's condition, I couldn't help but reflect on the past. I remembered how Mary would only give him soft foods like jelly and bananas. Whenever I questioned whether that was enough, she'd snap at me. "That's all he eats. Just leave it." But the doctors made it clear. Matt's diet had been dangerously unbalanced. He wasn't getting the nutrients he needed to grow strong. Determined to help him, I started researching proper nutrition and carefully planned his meals. Each morning, I prepared warm, nourishing soups packed with vegetables to strengthen his fragile body. At first, he struggled to eat much, his appetite small and hesitant. "You're doing great, Matt. You ate more today than yesterday." I encouraged him. He smiled shyly. "Thanks. I'm really trying." As the days passed, his body responded to the care he was finally receiving. With every finished meal, his energy grew, and his spirit shone a little brighter. Wanting to further support his recovery, I introduced light exercises into his routine, always checking with the doctors to ensure it was safe. Matt hesitated at first, but quickly grew to enjoy these small victories. At night, after tucking him into bed, I'd listen to his excited chatter about his day. "I threw the ball away farther today when we played catch," he'd say, his eyes sparkling with pride. "That's incredible, Matt. You're getting stronger every day." I'd reply, my heart swelling with pride. "It's all because of you and Gemma." Those simple words filled me with warmth. I never let him see it, but I often held back tears of joy. Watching him thrive was my greatest reward, and I dedicated myself completely to ensuring his happiness and health. 15 years passed in what felt like a blink. Raising Matt had changed me in ways I never expected. I never remarried after Todd left with Mary, but I never felt lonely. Matt gave my life meaning. Occasionally, I found myself wondering where Mary and Todd had ended up, but I never had a true desire to find out. It was just idle curiosity about people I no longer considered part of my life. But fate had other plans. One afternoon while shopping, a voice called out to me, "Hey, are you Gemma?" I turned, and my breath caught in my throat. Standing before me was Mary. She was older, but there was no mistaking her. "Mary," I asked, my voice tight with shock. She beamed at me as if we were old friends reconnecting after years apart. "Wow, Gemma. Long time no see." A chill ran down my spine. How could she act so casual? Before I could respond, a familiar figure walked up beside her. Todd. His grin was infuriatingly smug. "No way. Gemma? Well, you sure have aged." A hot wave of anger surged through me. These two had destroyed my life, abandoned Matt without a second thought, and now they were standing in front of me like nothing had ever happened. What do you think you're doing? I demanded, my voice sharp with fury. Mary let out a light-hearted laugh. Oh, come on, Gemma. You got to raise Matt, didn't you? You should be grateful. I stared at her, stunned by her audacity. She smirked. Don't be so dramatic. The past is the past. Just let it go. I clenched my fists, struggling to keep my emotions in check. Their utter lack of remorse was sickening. Todd chuckled beside her. And how's that kid of yours doing? I bit my tongue. Matt wasn't the sick, fragile child they had abandoned anymore. Todd's grin widened. Still single, huh, Gemma? Guess you missed your shot. Meanwhile, Mary and I are still madly in love. I refused to take the bait. I wouldn't let them see how much their words disgusted me. Mary crossed her arms, her tone smug. You know, it's funny. You can't even ask for child support or alimony, can you? Something shifted inside me. For years, I had dreaded this moment, the possibility of facing them again. But now, standing here, I felt something unexpected. Power. Because no matter what they said, I had won. I had raised Matt. I had given him the life they were too selfish to provide. And I had done it without their help. Then Mary dropped something unexpected. Well, anyway, Matt might not have worked out, but our daughter is perfectly healthy. The word daughter snapped me back. You have a daughter? I asked, turned to Todd. His chest puffed with pride. Yeah, she just turned 14. She's amazing, smart, beautiful. The best thing that ever happened to us. But something had changed. Mary's smirk was gone. The confidence she had a moment ago faded, replaced by a shadow of unease. And in that instant, I realized the truth. I could sense there was more to this than they were letting on. Folded my arms, I tilted my head slightly. So, you got pregnant after running off? I asked, watching Mary's face tighten. Her discomfort was evident, but before she could respond, Todd stepped in. Of course, she's mine. She was born a year after Mary and I moved in together. He declared confidently, but Mary flinched at his words. The tension in her expression told me there was something she wasn't saying. Something wasn't adding up. Todd took a step forward as if trying to assert his confidence, but I held my ground. That's a bold claim, Todd. I said, coolly, because while you were working, Mary was spending time with all kinds of different men, leaving Matt with me like he was an afterthought. The smug grin on Todd's face faded instantly. His confidence cracked as my words sank in. I hired a private investigator after you both disappeared. I continued. Do you want to know what I found? Mary's eyes darted away, her fingers twitching as she tried to mask her unease. She wasn't just sneaking off on weekends. I said, keeping my voice even. It was happening all week long. While I was caring for Matt, she was out with different men, living off their generosity, and acting like a doting mother only when it suited her. Todd's expression turned ghostly pale. No way, he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. We spent weekends together. How could she? I didn't let him finish. While you were at work, Todd, I said bluntly, she was out having the time of her life. He turned to Mary, his face a mixture of shock and betrayal. You told me you were exhausted from working to support Matt, he said, his voice growing unsteady. Was that all a lie? Mary remained silent, her eyes darting around as if searching for an escape. Then why did you even marry me? Todd asked, his voice now strained with desperation. Was I just convenient? Still, she didn't answer. Her silence spoke volumes. I took a slow breath before delivering the final blow. Let me guess, I said, my voice calm and unwavering. Out of all the men you saw, Todd was the most financially stable. That's why you stuck with him, isn't it? Mary's face drained the color, her composure cracking completely. Stop it, she snapped, her voice shaking. Todd took a step back, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. Is that true? He demanded. Was I just your personal bank account? Mary's face flushed with shame, but she still said nothing. You don't have to answer, I said, shrugging. I already know. I have recordings, conversations with your so-called friends where you flat out called Todd your ATM. Mary stiffened, her entire body going rigid. Her secrets were unraveling right in front of her. Todd swallowed hard, his voice trembling. So our daughter, there's a chance she's not even mine? Mary's panic was palpable. She latched onto Todd's arm. She is yours, she insisted desperately. But Todd's confidence was gone. He looked at me, searching for an answer he already feared. You can always take a DNA test, I suggested lightly. Mary's face turned stark white. There's no need for that, she said quickly. She's your daughter. I swear. I simply shrugged. It wasn't my problem. That's between you two, I said firmly. But let me be clear. I didn't come here to dig up your mess. I came here to remind you both of the son you abandoned. No matter what happens with your daughter, I raised Matt with love and care, and that will never change. Mary and Todd stood there, stunned and defeated, as I turned away. Just then, a familiar voice broke through the tension. Mom, are you ready to go? I turned and met Matt's gaze, a warm smile spreading across my face. Oh, I'm sorry to keep you waiting, I said. It's okay. Let's go, he replied, stepping toward me with an air of quiet confidence. Mary and Todd's eyes followed him, their faces twisting in disbelief. Wait, is that Matt? Mary's voice trembled as she pointed at him. Matt stood tall, dressed in a sharp suit, his posture strong and assured. He was nothing like the fragile little boy she had walked away from. Yes, I said, pride swelling in my chest. This is Matt. He's 20 now, and thriving. Matt met their stunned gazes, his expression calm but unyielding. I remember everything, he said evenly. Even though I was young, I know exactly who you are, my biological mother and her lover. Todd looked horrified, struggling to process the weight of Matt's words. But weren't you supposed to be really sick? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I thought you only had 6 months left to live, Todd stammered, his voice unsteady. Matt, and I exchanged glances before I turned back to him. No, I said firmly. Matt was never terminally ill. That 6-month story? It was just another one of Mary's lies after she left. When I took Matt to the hospital, the doctors told me the truth. He was suffering from malnutrition, nothing more. All he ever needed was proper food and care. Mary's face turned scarlet with shame. I tried, she stammered, but he was such a picky eater. Todd's expression twisted in disgust. Matt eats just fine now, I told him. He's healthy, strong, and even played sports in high school. Matt nodded. And now, I'm studying to become a doctor. I want to make sure no other child goes through what I did. Mary and Todd gasped, clearly stunned by how far he'd come. I had no idea, Todd muttered. And there's no need for Mary to belittle him anymore or call him names, I added sharply, shooting her a cold glance. Mary looked away, guilt written all over her face. She knew the truth. If Matt had stayed with her, he never would have reached this point. She parted her lips to speak, but Todd cut her off. I want a divorce, he said bluntly. Mary's eyes widened in sheer panic. What? No, you can't be serious, she cried, grabbing onto his arm. But Todd's face remained firm, his mind made up. After learning how you neglected Matt and lied to me, I can't stay with you. Mary's voice turned frantic. It's all a misunderstanding. Gemma twisted the truth. Todd shook his head. You treated me like a bank account, and I was too blind to see it. But not anymore. Mary opened her mouth to argue, but he was already done. I'm finished, he said coldly. Then he turned to me, regret filling his expression. Gemma, I know I can never undo what I did, but I truly am sorry. He bowed his head in apology. I felt nothing. The pain and betrayal I had once carried had long since faded, replaced by the love and fulfillment of raising Matt. I've moved on, Todd, I said simply. Matt and I have our own lives now. With that, I turned to Matt. Let's go. Yeah, let's go, he agreed, and we began to walk away. Behind us, Mary's voice broke through the silence, trembling. Matt, I'm sorry, she choked out. I regret leaving you all those years ago. Tears glistened in her eyes as she took a hesitant step forward. Matt turned to face her but lifted a hand, stopping her in her tracks. Don't, he said, his voice steady and unwavering. Mary's breath caught in her throat. I remember every time you shoved me out of the house when strangers came over, he continued. Mary's face turned deathly pale. And I remember the day you abandoned me. Matt went on, his tone like steel. That was the day I decided I'd never forgive you. He met her gaze with absolute finality. You're calling her mom? Mary asked desperately, her voice barely a whisper. Yes, Matt replied without hesitation. Gemma raised me. She's my real mother. Mary stood frozen, the weight of his words crashing down on her. Don't ever try to contact us again, Matt said firmly, and with that we turned and walked away, leaving her behind, broken and alone. Not long after, I heard that Todd had taken a DNA test and discovered the truth. The daughter Mary claimed wasn't his at all. Enraged, he sued her for damages, filed for divorce, and walked away from her forever. Mary, in her desperation, tried to ruin his reputation with false rumors, but it backfired spectacularly, leaving her with nothing. As for me, I blocked her messages and severed all ties, closing that chapter of my life for good. Matt, on the other hand, thrived. He grew into a remarkable young man, got engaged to his longtime girlfriend, and continued making me proud every single day. On his 20th birthday, I took him to a beautiful restaurant to celebrate. Let's make a toast, I said, raising my glass. To adulthood. Cheers, Matt replied, clinking his glass against mine. In that moment, as I looked at the strong, kind, and successful man sitting across from me, I felt it pure, unshakable happiness. This was everything I had ever wanted.